Hey traders, what's happening? Jamie Saettele here. It is March 25th, 2022, Friday, and this is the FX Power Hour. Again, Jamie Saettele here with Scandinavian Capital Markets and SB Trade Desk. Let's dive into it. Share the screen here. Alrighty, so we'll start with Euro. Frankly, we haven't done a whole lot over the last couple of weeks, or I mean, really since the low 2 weeks ago, right? That early March low, which again, the big observation here and the thing to remember is that it was at that low in place still is at the trend line from the or the line off of the 2017 and 2020 lows, right? So we do have that long-term trend line in play. Near term, this is the chart I actually threw up last night. When we were testing this trend line, short-term trend line, right? Back about, I don't know, a month and a half or so trend line back to February 10th high. So you can see here we did fail at it again last night, at least night where I am. And yeah, not much else to say here. You know, we have held, if you look at the rally, the initial rally, right? We had a pretty sharp advance, a nice three-wave pullback. Felt like we were going to go, right, in kind of a third or C wave higher. At least try to test the 112.15, 112.30 area, which is very well defined from former support, along with 2 legs up and the month open, by the way. But Euro's never that easy, right? Trading's never that easy. So instead, we've settled into this range of sorts. We have held 618 retrace of that initial rally off the low. So, you know, I just cautiously optimistic here, given, you know, the rally from, again, that trend line back from 5 years ago, but we have failed here. So several times. So in order to really be bullish, right, and really play this, you do need to break above the trend line here. It goes back about, again, a month and a half. So until that happens, it's kind of wait and see, right? Not a whole lot to do here. Always look at dollar sec when I look at euro. We did have a pretty decent bearish development here for the dollar. Again, we had that kind of bigger picture blow off top, if you will, back in early March. We had looked at, I'm going to bring in actually a longer term chart here first. We had looked at this very long term chart. Oops, hold on. This is a, call it life of currency pair channel, back to the 70s, right? So we had that tag of that center line, and see we topped there in 2016, and we've topped there again so far this year. So, you know, from that standpoint, kind of a thinking maybe a ceiling is in for the dollar. Again, looking at a near-term chart, here's a daily chart or a shorter-term chart. We had a bearish development in the sense that we did break below the center line, which I haven't read now because it should be resistance now. So this is kind of, you know, this has been really clear in terms of levels. So center line, again, resistance going back not quite a year, right? About 9 months or so. This is June, okay, July, August, November, January, February. You get it. It was even support here mid-March, a little bounce. Then you can see we cracked below it. See that wide range bar right there? Big break below. Again, if we get back to that level at some point, you know, market's on its own time, of course. So, you know, I don't know if we get back there or not, but if we do, I would expect that to provide resistance probably near that little horizontal I just threw up, right? Oops, which is like 960 or so. And that would kind of be the next, sell signal, if you will, for dollar SEK and probably the dollar in general, notably against European FX, right? So notably against euro. So while the euro levels, I don't have a whole lot to work with on euro, right? Except for, again, that that trend line back to 2017. Excuse me. Here you've got really some clean levels to pay attention to. So again, this dollar SEK should be pretty good resistance if we get back to that center line, right? By the same token, if we drop from here or don't make it back to this level, you'd probably be looking at the lower parallel as your big test for support, right? Again, save for this little false, move down here in what was that, October, November 2021. That lower parallel has been pretty solid support a number of times. Alrighty, so let's move on to pound. And for pound, I'm actually going to bring in a post. We'll take a look at the live chart here in a sec, but I want to look at, I think it was Monday's post. It was. We had some good stuff here. Hold on. All right. Here's cable. All right, so this chart's going to show some proprietary reversal signals. We looked at these, I think we looked at it for dollar SEK and a couple other pairs the last few weeks, but this is going back, I don't know, like 10 years or so, and it's, again, weekly chart. We got one last week. You can see we've had some really good signals. In fact, almost all of the signals, really, except for one here in 2015, and then you got another one anyway. Actually, this really would have worked too for a couple weeks, right? So, frankly, all the signals kind of worked. And some were insane as far as, identifying major turns. So, again, this is just a key reversal with a couple conditions involving volatility and momentum. And we got one last week, right? So that, and then this is the seasonal chart. And we actually have, seasonals are kind of a big deal right now, this time of the year, around the equinox. You've got big turns. So cable, British pound seasonality has indeed turned higher, right? So really higher for the next couple of months. So the combination of that reversal signal along with the seasonal tendencies make me pretty darn bullish on cable right here. And again, this is all based, this is just on a technical perspective. I'm not, I don't know, I'm not pretending to know anything about the fundamental landscape here. I'm just sharing you my observations on these charts. All right, so let's take a look at British pound. Okay, British pound, we'll go 60-minute chart here. All right, so 60-minute chart. Channel's probably not going to be, I don't know, probably won't be valid much longer. I mean, we tried to break below it this morning, but really the big observations here, I'll actually get rid of it. Big observations here are, at least from the low, okay, you can see I've got a volume weighted average price from the low here, and that has held, right? We've held that as support on the way up, so that's a good sign so far. As far as near-term levels to pay attention to, that's really all I'm going to get into. I wouldn't risk much below 3150 at this point on a near-term basis, right? We just looked at the weekly reversal chart and the seasonality chart, all good and well. But from a trading near-term standpoint, managing risk, I wouldn't risk much below 3150. If you start cracking 3150 and then 20 or sorry, VWAP from the low, then you're kind of back to the drawing board in terms of near-term setups are concerned. And lest we forget that we did fail at former support over here. But if, for the sake of argument, we do hold up and continue higher, I'll be looking towards 33.60, 33.90. Okay, 33.60 is the low here from January. 33.90 is basically this head and shoulders objective. So kind of, head and shoulders. Oops, that was head and shoulders here, right? Something like that. Retest. So that's where my head's at for British pound. And again, bigger picture, it's quite possible that you've got a much more important low in place given the reversal signals and again the seasonal tendencies. And I guess towards the end of this today's webinar, I'll take a look at the seasonal tendencies for all the currencies because they're pretty, again, they're an important point right now. All right, we'll move on to, I guess we'll take a look at commodity FX. Okay, so Aussie breakout. You'll notice a theme here with commodity FX. I'm kind of thinking thinking pullback near term, and then that would set us up for bigger opportunities, okay, on the long side. So simple here, just this line, right? Back to year-long, well now 13-month trend line, February 25th. So in fact, exactly 13 months. So trend line, right? Trend line confirmed, reversed off of it, broke out this week. Okay. And we have a question coming in. I will take a look at it here in a second from Daniel. But yeah, so Aussie, again, keep it simple here. We are running into kind of resistance from the October high at 75.55, along with this upper parallel, okay, which is a parallel from this fork that originates at the December low. So again, it's a good spot for a pullback anyway. But the setup here is on the long side. You pull back, watch for support. Again, probably near 74. Okay. And here's a question. Daniel says, why we don't allow over weekend trade and funded trading in order to allow long swing? It really breaks the trend. Those are questions. I mean, really, it's from a risk standpoint, but that's questions that you should send into. I'll put it this way. I'll forward that question to the powers that be with the funded trader program. Okay. And what your question is, Daniel, it's not about being able to trade over the weekend. It's about holding positions over the weekend. I hear what you're saying. So I will ask that question. Okay. In terms of, where were we? Kiwi. Move to Kiwi. Okay, so yeah, looking for, again, pullback in Aussie, probably pretty soon, and then higher. 74 is your big support. Kiwi chart's actually, I think, even cleaner than the Aussie chart, and I love this chart. So here is this neckline here from the December 31st, 2019 high and the September 2020 high really has been the level that we've been focused on at times for the last couple of years. So broke above it, launch, right? Support, resistance, 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 launch. Obviously, I don't know if we get back there. I think we do, just because, again, that Aussie chart, we're coming into a pretty big spot. Good place for a pullback. But if you pull back here, again, 68, 90-ish is going to be, you know, kind of load the boat up on the long side for me. At least that's where my head's at. In terms of resistance, or the next big test, you've got this channel resistance up here, red line, and it's probably about 70.50, right? So good levels to pay attention to there. 68.90 and about 70.50. Okay. Dollar CAD. Dollar CAD is working on, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive down days. For fun, let's see if we can find out how many times we've done that. Let's see. All right, let's go to dollar CAD. Oops, consecutive down days. All right, consecutive down days, we'll go 9. Okay, so we've got 1. Let's blow this up actually because you can't really see it. All right, here we go. Now, again, we haven't finished the day, but assuming we do, happened over here, 2016. Hasn't happened a lot, has it? Oh, happened over here, the middle of downtrends. It's in 2010, 2011, middle of a downtrend. I guess it really doesn't tell us a whole lot. I just thought it was interesting. Okay, so dollar CAD 9 days down. We have broken this trend line. This is the important stuff. We broke the trend line here back to the, again, 9-month trend line, June 2021, 2021 lows. So if we do get a little bounce here over the next couple of days, you've got resistance up about 126, give or take. Okay, very much like Aussie in the sense that we are thinking pullback and then continuing in the direction of this newly minted trend. Okay, and that is Canadian dollar. Okay, now the moment we've all been waiting for, dollar yen. Dollar yen has done some pretty important things here. All right. What we have here is a trend line that goes back not just years, but decades. And we've broken it. We've broken it decisively. You can see it right here. Okay, I'll put it in bold because it's very important. So again, 1990 high, 1998, resistance back in 2015, and see you later. So look, on a very long-term basis, this looks pretty darn bullish to me, and it should to you as well. Probably looking at towards 150 at some point in the coming years. You know, timing as far as how long these things take to happen is very difficult, but I wouldn't expect it to happen tomorrow. I will say that at some point, the top side of this multi-decade trend line is probably, or not probably, but if reached, right, would probably become support. Okay, I don't know if we're going to reach it, but you know, that's going to be down near at this point. I mean, close to 117. So, you know, you're talking five big figures if we were to pull back. So keep that in mind. That's the big picture. That's very important. Near term, I've been sharing this chart here. So this is back to the 2016 low. Okay. Actually, it originates at the Brexit low, believe it or not. Seems so long ago. Wild. Anyway, we've got that. We have the channel, which is like, if you look at it on log scale, it's a little higher. If you look at it on an arithmetic scale, we've already reached it. So either way, we could get a pullback, you know, underway relatively soon. We did have a pullback overnight, okay, like 100-some pips, but you know, as far as getting a multi-day or even multi-week pullback, that could happen from this level, okay? Also, if you just kind of look across the chart, like I'll just throw up where we are. You know, you've got well-defined levels over here. I mean, you know, remember like doing that from over here on the opposite end, right? Support, same idea. So, I mean, you're into kind of a sticky, if you will, kind of a sticky zone where something might happen. Okay, so in this basis, so we looked at that really long-term chart. On that basis, we talked about maybe support being, and again, that's a very, very long-term chart. That might be back at the 117s at some point. However, if we were to pull back or go into a maybe consolidation mode at some point after this big breakout, I would actually follow this line here. This is a former resistance line on dollar yen. And, you know, if former highs here, mid 118s, right? That would be ideal, you know, for support at some point. So I don't know, just levels to keep in mind, right? Okay, while we're on yen, I guess we could look at some other yen crosses. Let's look at euro yen. Go to a weekly chart. Okay, euro yen weekly chart. This is log scale. See this thick black line that goes back to 2012. That's going to be up near 137.50. That is the high from 2018. That is an objective to pay attention to. Go to the daily. Again, if you pull back here, clear as day in terms of where support should be. And it should be at the top side of this former resistance line, which I now have in blue. And that's going to be like 132.70 or so. All right. Again, these things can happen quick little pullback, and then take it higher. Pound yen. Weekly chart here. Again, we're just looking at simple levels here, and that's all you need to do. We've broken out in these yen crosses, and the next big level on pound yen is, call it like 164. You can see 164 is just beautiful, right? Ding, 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 ding. Resistance actually like pre-Brexit. And support is former resistance right here. And that's going to be 158.20s right there. Kiwi yen, I actually posted this chart on Twitter yesterday, and this is an important thing too. When I mention, usually my charts are all log scale, but it's important to make note of when they're not, and this is one time when they're not. So this is log scale, okay? This is arithmetic scale. Again, I'm not saying one is necessarily the right one all the time, or, you know, whatnot, but in this case, the arithmetic scale trend line is actually pretty well defined. Like, it was resistance back here in 2019. We've now reached it, okay? I actually had, oh, here, this was a chart I actually posted. Yeah, it's a little more defined. So this here, all these pivots, former highs, former support, that is 8407. So, oops. So the way to kind of go about this is, if you were to drop below 84, I would take that as a signal that you could try to trade just on the short side. Until then, I really don't have any interest in trying to fade this. I will note, so check this out. And this is the longest term chart I have for Kiwi yen, right? And I think it only goes back to like the 90s or something. But RSI yesterday, the RSI on daily RSI, the reading yesterday was 88.93. It's the highest ever. In fact, the only one that's even close was right here, and that was December 5th of 2005. And that was 88.23, that reading. And you can see here, at that point, we actually dropped like nine big figures over the course of like 3 weeks. I'm not saying that's happening here, could, but it's just an observation. You know, I don't know, an RSI reading on Kiwi yen, this isn't Bitcoin, right? At close to 90, it does seem like maybe a little overdone. Anywho, we shall see. All right, so there's that. CAD yen's also a very interesting chart, especially on a very long-term basis. So you know, here's the channel. Doesn't get much clearer than this. If I were writing a textbook on channeling, this would probably be in there. It's a beauty. So we are into kind of that channel resistance level. If I go back to a longer term chart, we have broken a pretty darn important trend line definitively. You know, if we get a pullback from the channel up here, which makes sense, go back to the daily chart, watch for support some point, you know, near the middle of the channel. That's simple. Again, I'm showing you all these charts from my trading, my own trading, how I do things. I tend to focus. It's not to say, excuse me, I need more coffee. It's not to say that I don't ever trade, you know, non-dollar crosses, but I tend to focus on just the dollar crosses. And if I find myself in a cross trade, so be it. Like, you know, so right now we've got, I'm long some Aussie, you know, but if say we pull back Aussie and we test that trend line near 74, and I want to, you know, get bigger on Aussie, right? So be it. Let's say that dollar yen pulls back at some point next couple of weeks or whatever, or longer, and we end up at 118s, and maybe I buy dollar yen. Well, now I'm long Aussie yen, right? I'm not trading Aussie yen, but I am long Aussie yen, if that makes sense. So That's how I focus. It just kind of simplifies it, I think, for me. Again, that's not to say there's not a cross trade here and there, because sometimes, you know, like let's say that Kiwi yen chart we just looked at. Let's say that we do start to get some downside, even on an intraday chart, some clear impulsive action. Just given what I just talked about, you know, maybe I'll take a flyer with a tight stop, right? Who knows? You know, you got to be opportunistic as well. All right, so we looked at, I think, all the yen crosses of interest. Why don't we take a peek? We'll obviously look at some indices here in a second. Oh, I wanted to look at Bitcoin. I forgot about that. So what I'm wondering with Bitcoin is if we've got like something of an Elliott triangle here. You know, I mean, we're right at the line, triangle line. This is VWAP from the high, right above. So, you know, you're into pretty good resistance for Bitcoin. And, you know, there's no, I'm not trading this yet, but I do lean towards the short side on Bitcoin at this point. Given one, just the general change in behavior and bigger break that we had. You know, we've been below the 200-day average now for a while. If you did break higher from here, then I would still be looking for resistance a little higher. Again, it'd probably be at this pitchfork upper parallel. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let me move to gold and silver, and then I will take a look at indices. All right. This is a 4-hour chart. Gold is struggling at pretty good resistance, 38.2 of the drop. 618's up here at 2004. Gold's in kind of a trading environment right now. We, after all the excitement and everything that happened into early March, probably need to reset for a while, and that doesn't mean just in price, which we kind of have. We dropped, you know, $90 or so. That also means in time. Okay. So like I could envision something, you know, this is not very scientific here, but I could envision something like where we're, you know, kind of trading like this for a while, right? And then you reset for another big move higher or something like that. Like we have had a bigger technical break on the upside, okay? But as far as the immediacy of massive moves to the upside, I'm not sure that's so much in the cards right now. But yeah, you know, maybe it might be a good, again, for short-term traders, looking at maybe 2004, like I said, as decent resistance. Okay, so maybe range trading gold for a while. Silver is going to be kind of similar. Silver, again, after breaking above this channel, we've kind of meandered around it, haven't done a whole lot. This is actually a good time to bring in the concept too of daily reversal resistance and support levels, something that Tom DeMark, that I got from him in reading one of his things many moons ago. So take the high day, right? When you in these ranges, these tend to work out pretty well. Take the high day, the move, okay? Throw the line on the close, and that's kind of the level you're looking for resistance within the range, okay? In fact, like I can look back here and show you examples of when it worked very well. So like right here, see the low day back here in December. I put the close on it, support, right? By the same token, why don't we throw one over here on that low day close, which is right with 2022 VWAP, by the way. So you got 2509 and 2641 or so. So those are kind of range levels for silver. in the near term. And again, it's just kind of, my opinion here, but after the action we saw over the last couple of months, we're probably in for some sideways, kind of range trading, if you will, before we head higher. And again, the markets need to reset before that happens. All right. Okay, I will look at indices here in a second. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, okay, we revamped our funded trader program. So go to scandinavianmarkets.com/getfunded, and that'll take you here. You can read all about it. You get funded with up to $2 million to trade with us, okay, our capital, and we're looking for trading talent. So there's an assessment that needs to be passed, of course, but come check it out. Again, there's no time constraints, unlike some of the other firms that do this. No time constraints. You don't have to make X amount in X amount of time, right? Trading doesn't work like that. And yeah, we are looking for trading talent, so come check us out. Again, scandinavianmarkets.com/getfunded. Okay. All right, let's move on to indices. Okay, so we've run into levels here. Nasdaq, recall the low, actually the day of it, and I still have Nasdaq resistance higher. Remember, we had this very long-term chart back to 2014, which we held, right? Everyone thought the world was ending. We held it. And I think resistance is up here between 15,260 and 15,540 or so. But it might be in for a pullback now. At least that's what the other indices suggest in terms of where we are. Daniel asked about Aussie yen. Yeah, that's the one I didn't look at because I don't have as much of an opinion on Aussie yen. We looked at all the other ones though. I'll look at Aussie yen in a second though. But here, let's get through these indices. All right, so we have reached a level on the S&P. Good horizontal zone, 45.50 to 45.95 or so, right here, right? You can see nice highs and lows all between there, where a pullback seems to make sense. And really, the first level I'd watch for support, I guess, is 2022 VWAP at 44.01. The Dow, though, is the one that's very interesting to me. So remember this trend, this red line here, right? It goes back 9 months, June. Okay, broke it, came back in it. A lot of people, at this point, they get rid of this line because they say it's no longer valid. I disagree. We've been trading around it now, well, I guess all week, really. Yeah, this whole week. We haven't really done anything this week, by the way. Just a bunch of back and fill. We're at resistance from this parallel, so from this fork, and from corrective channel resistance, okay? Parallel, parallel. See what we finished like today. But, if we were to finish somewhere like this, kind of a bearish, candle on a Friday, I don't know. I'm thinking pullback. Your initial support level to pay attention to, these former highs here, call it 3,400 or 34,000, excuse me. Right here. So near-term resistance, looking for a pullback. In the case of the Nasdaq, it does seem like more important resistance is higher. Okay, we did have a question on Aussie yen, so I wanted to go there from Daniel. And then I'm going to look at seasonality just run through those real quick because, again, we are at an important point. All right, so here, Daniel, is Aussie yen. This is log scale. Like Kiwi yen, we've come through some really big levels, broken through the highs here from 2017. We are trading at the best level since 2015. All right. You do have this line here, 2013 and 14 highs. Well, other than that, I didn't have a whole lot to share. I will look at, I could show you here the, had an interesting look on Aussie yen RSI, actually. So remember, Kiwi yen was the highest ever. We reached 86.69 RSI yesterday in Aussie yen. So 86, let's just say 86.50. 86.50 RSI in Aussie yen. Right? Happened once before, and it was that same time, not surprisingly, back in December of 2005, right here. Let's just so at that point, back here in 2005, if you were kind of drawing trend lines and or forks or something like that, you would have done like something like this, right? Had a breakout and then a fake out. Daniel says, sorry to be annoying. Daniel, do not worry, my friend. You are not annoying. We welcome the questions. Don't worry about that. So I don't know. At this point, Aussie yen, you're asking to look at the IBEX. I'll take a look at it. I can tell you I have not looked at European indices in I don't know how long, but I'll do my best. If I'm looking at Euro yen now, those V bottoms we had in yen crosses and things back in March 2020, usually that's an indication that you're probably going to be working with shift forks, okay? So let's see. This is going to be a channel. This is going to be a shift. Frankly, I'm not getting a whole lot out of any of these. Like there was no median line tag on that. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of clarity on Aussie yen at this point. Probably why I didn't look at it before. Yeah. All right, well, I'll try the IBEX. Here we go. IBEX. So I'm guessing it's this one. So Spain's market here. That's nice. So you did have, let's see if we get a channel. So a couple things. One, you got a channel. You can see here, clear as day, right? Two, let's throw up. I always like to know when I'm looking at any market where 2022 volume weighted average price is. And that's going to be, I guess, I don't think I have any volume on here, so can't even do it. Where's the 200 average? It's up there. Where's the 50-day average? It's right there. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have like much to give you here near term, IBEX, whatever. I guess I'd be thinking pullback after this reversal here the other day, and then but throw your fibs on there and look for support. Question on crude. Big fat range. So we looked at the very long-term charts last week. Look at last week's YouTube video to see that. Near term here, we've run into the 618 retrace. So I'm thinking, you know, risk of us heading lower again on crude from here. Daniel says, great program. I will refer to it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if you go to our YouTube page too, you can watch like all the archives. So, you know, I go over pretty much the same, you know, markets each week. Of course, if there's questions you ever have, please come, you know, ready with those, and I will take a look, do my best. But we had, like last week, we obviously looked at some much longer term interesting charts on crude oil. So take a look at that if you want to look. You know, you can scroll through it and find the stuff as well. But yeah, so. Yep, good webinar today. Thanks for attending. Usually these are on Wednesdays or Thursdays, but today was Friday. Today was a little different week. My son was on spring break, so I was kind of busy with him a lot this week doing stuff, but was able to get coverage here today so that I could do this webinar. Anywho, back to normal next week. Again, Jamie Saettele here with Scandinavian Capital Markets and sbtradedesk.com. And don't forget to go to scandinavianmarkets.com/getfunded and check out our funded trader program. And have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll talk to you all next week. All right, bye.